What if I told you that for thousands of years, the most influential secret societies in human history weren't teaching people how to make money or acquire power? They were teaching them how to govern reality. Ancient Egypt had mystery schools. The Greeks had initiation rites. The Rosicrucians developed systems of inner transformation. The Freemasons built an entire framework of 33 degrees. And today, everyone on the internet argues about what happened inside these organizations. But they weren't protecting secret handshakes. They were protecting a map of human transformation. And the irony is none of it is actually secret anymore. So, let's get into it. All right, guys, before we go any further, this is not a conspiracy video. I am not here to tell you what happens inside the 33rd degree, but I'm interested in something that I think is much more useful across cultures separated by centuries. So I want to share what I believe are the 5 primary laws of creation. If we were to take all the esoteric teachings, from the Masons to the esoteric Egyptian teachings, to the Hermetics, to the Rosicrucians, and distill them into a framework of just 5 principles, these would be my 5 picks. Law number 1. The power of decision. All of the teachings point to the idea that we have the capacity to command reality, and we command reality through our beliefs. And I think it's important to understand, because beliefs are very misunderstood concept. You know, if you've been in personal growth for a while, and you've wanted to shift your beliefs, you've probably run into some challenges. You've probably had some success too. But a belief by definition is that which we believe to be true. So how do we change what we believe to be the truth? And you know, with beliefs work with inner work. You're working with invisible forces. And so that's not very tangible for most people. It's like trying to manage a cloud. To wrap your arms around a cloud. And that's why I think it's very important to understand that beliefs are decisions. Beliefs are these programs we adopted at a very early age. The meaning we gave the experiences of our life, that we weren't good enough, that we didn't matter, that we weren't loved, that there's not enough time, that we can't trust people. But these were unconscious decisions. And when you realize that beliefs are decisions, you can start accessing the power of decision. You can start making different decisions in your life. And I don't mean decisions to do things, but decisions about things. You can start deciding how life will be for you. You know, if you look at the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis, you see the first decision, which is, let there be light. And the result of that decision was light. And so that's the very first teaching in the Bible that helps us understand that we create our own reality. And reality is responding to that which we have decided. Or, another way of looking at it is that which we have commanded. You know, 3 really extraordinary things happen when you make a decision. And I don't mean just to speak something, but when internally you align with a new reality, when you decide that life is prosperous and abundant. You start having prosperous and abundant thoughts. So the decision changes the way you think. The information that you're able to tune into. In the field, you start changing your perception of reality. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's that part of your brain when you buy the new car. You see it everywhere on the road. Neuroscience tells us You only pay attention to a small sliver of what you experience. On a day-to-day basis, 12% of what happens around you makes it through to your conscious awareness. 88% gets filtered to the subconscious mind. That 12% that you pay attention to is based on what you believe, what you've decided, and the third, really extraordinary thing, when you're willing to access the power of decision, is that as you decide and you embody and you hold that decision internally, you start to radiate a new frequency, and reality has no choice but to respond. So you start creating coincidences and synchronicities that are aligned with this new reality that you have decided. So again, if I were to distill down all the teachings into 5 core principles, the first principle would be the power of decision. The second is the law of identity. And so what this really means is that who you're being will reflect itself into the external world. Now, what does it mean, who you're being, or what does it mean, your consciousness? Right, because your consciousness will reflect itself into the external world. That is the sum total of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions. That is the psychological, emotional energy that is functioning inside of you. And if you look at the sum total of your thoughts and your emotions and your belief systems, that is your identity, that's your personality. Judge Spencer has this line that he always says, your personality creates your personal reality. And what he's speaking into is this ancient law that says, whatever your identity is will reflect itself upon, as Neville Goddard calls it, the 5 senses, screen of space, your third-dimensional material reality. And so this is why it's important, if you want to change your reality, that you change your identity. And one of the processes that I think is most effective is to actually sit down and look at the goals that you're trying to achieve. And then ask yourself a question. If I had already achieved these goals, how would I think? How would I feel? How would I be, you know? What you often find is that once you achieve the financial income or security that you're looking for, if right now you're not experiencing enough money, is that you would be calm, you would be relaxed. And so, the invitation with the law of identity is to choose to be calm and relaxed right now. Train yourself into a down-regulated nervous system that can regularly experience calm and relaxation. And the byproduct of that is the money that you're looking for. Most people spend their whole lives chasing an outcome, not realizing that the invitation is to act as if the outcome were already achieved. The byproduct of that is the outcome itself. Because what you're really doing in that sense is you're acting like your future self. You're shifting your identity. And when you do that, you think differently. You feel differently. You therefore do differently. And you attract different opportunities, different ideas, and you create different results. Law number 3 is the echo effect. This is one of the most important teachings that the secret societies instructed people to understand. And that is, it does take some time for your reality to change. You know, one of the great teachers of modern day, in terms of metaphysics or law of attraction, Abraham Hicks says, your present moment is old news. So why pay so much attention to it? We become enamored with what's going on in our reality right now. But if you think about it, your reality today, the day that you walk into, that's an echo of past thoughts, emotions, and decisions that you've made. So why pay so much attention to it? In fact, that is the challenge for most people who want to change their reality, is we pay too much attention to the present moment. In fact, Neville Goddard, the great mystic teacher, encourages that we ignore our present moment and we stay aligned with the decisions or the commands that we have made around how reality will be for us, that we stay aligned with the identity, that is, the embodied identity of someone who produces desired results. The encouragement or invitation is to be undisturbed by your current reality, and rather than resist and utilize your precious energy to resist the present reality, instead, impress your will or your decisions onto the field, and the field must respond. So this can be challenging for most people, and this is why most people live a Groundhog Day type of existence. Because our past thoughts, beliefs, and emotions have created our current reality. And then we pay attention to and react to our current reality in the same way that created the reality in the first place. And so we continue to replicate that reality day after day, week after week, month after month. A lot of people, when they get into law of attraction, may be skeptical and they go, "Well, you know, I've changed my thinking. I've come up with a new belief and my reality hasn't changed." And the reason is because on a Monday you made a new decision, but on a Tuesday you got entangled with your current reality. So it's important to understand that there is an echo, or a period of time, in which you're really living in two different realities. You're living in the reality that you've created from your past, thoughts and beliefs and emotions, and you're also living in the reality that you are determining your future will be. Sort of have one foot into each. And this is a level of mastery that is developed over time. As you continue to practice your personal growth, you're able to withstand or stand unshaken amidst the shifting of your reality, as the echo passes, and allow for your new reality to emerge. Law number 4 is the mastermind principle. Now, of course, Napoleon Hill talks about this, but it's also spoken about across all the esoteric and ancient teachings. Napoleon said he noticed that when multiple people come together, they seem to tap into a third mind, like a super intelligence. And again, we can look to Scripture for this instruction, right? It is said that for where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them, right? It was this idea that God is present with multiple people who gather, intending in the same direction. You can look to the great industrialists to see how this worked. It's a perfect example. You know, Rockefeller. If you've ever read his biography written by Ron Chernow, it's called Titan. There are multiple instances where Rockefeller talks about the importance of bringing together like-minded people and his ability to access a new level of thoughts and ideas, whether it's with his executive team or his partners, like Henry Flagler, or with J.P. Morgan, when William Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan got together on Jekyll Island for the creation of the Federal Reserve. This is where a lot of conspiracy theories come from, because we can see that a principle like the mastermind theory is being leveraged by very powerful people to create systems and structures that many people don't agree with, or that feel are part of the system of control. But that's sort of the point, right? These folks understood the principles that allow them to shape reality. They're able to tune into ideas and concepts that literally structure systems of control around the world. Now, the good news is that we all have access to this now, and we can use the same principles to create systems of liberation, systems of consciousness. But when you do gather with multiple people, it's like a supercharged consciousness battery. You have access to more ideas in the field. They come more quickly. You're able to broadcast more powerfully, to catalyze coincidence and synchronicity again. There's a superintelligence that exists when multiple people come, who are aligned with the same passion or the same purpose. Law. Number 5 is the mirror principle. We've alluded to this a little bit. This idea that the external is a reflection of the internal, and it's very important to understand. Now, if you really want to master your own consciousness, you use the reality that you've created as the feedback mechanism for changing the way that you think and changing the way that you feel. When you experience things in your life that you don't like, you don't blame the external. You actually look at your reaction to what's happening and realize that that reaction or that belief or that thought is the belief or thought that created the situation in the first place. Now, there's an ancient Hermetic saying, which is, as is above, so is below. This is the idea that whatever is expressing itself externally can find its root cause internally. An external change, therefore, occurs through inner mastery. What is the mastery? Well, the mastery is to take the information from the reaction you have to your reality and work with that information. Oh, there's a resentment. Oh, there's a limiting belief. And over time, as you become aware and transform the belief systems, you become less reactive to the external contrast. You know, yogic traditions talk about this, right? In fact, they created an embodiment practice. You get into an uncomfortable posture that you would ordinarily react to, and the invitation is to breathe through it, right? Breathe through the discomfort. In other words, allow the impulse, the anger, the fear, the doubt, the overwhelm to arise within you and to subside without reacting. This is, of course, why personal mastery is so important. Why personal growth is so important. The idea of healing yourself, of transforming your limiting beliefs, of letting go of your resentments, and ultimately learning how to surrender to reality rather than resist it. So, these are my top 5 principles. By the way, if you want to go beyond the intellectual understanding of these ancient teachings and actually embody it, got an amazing opportunity for you. You can check out a link in the show notes of this episode. We created a David AI-powered assessment that will help you identify your top 3 limiting beliefs. It'll actually give you a scorecard and give you access to one of our most powerful tools, which is called the Decision Matrix, to help you make some new decisions where you have been living with your limiting belief. So you want to check that out. There's a link in the show notes. It's absolutely free. And if you love this episode, do me a favor, subscribe. Leave me a comment, ask a question. I try to answer as many as I can. And if you think somebody in your life needs to hear this episode, please share it with them. Because this growth, this journey, this evolution that we are on together, it is not a do-it-yourself project.